Manmohan Singh is saying that there should be a land reform. People are genuinely worried. They're going to the lawmakers' places. And now we have this news from PTI which says that you have terror group, wire agency reports that there's a terror group operating.
Well, Karthikeya, you know what PTI has, Press Trust of India has reported is something which many were fearing for a while now. And then there is no way on earth you can allow a situation, this kind of law and order situation to fester on for such a long time without it having serious consequences. I guess this is one of a very dangerous consequence which has emerged because, you know, mingling of dormant militant groups into people protesting can have very damaging consequences, you know, where one death can trigger off a massive avalanche of protest and counter, indulging in arson by other groups. I think time has really, it's getting really imperative on the part of the state and the government to crack down as much as possible to ensure that law and order doesn't get out of hand. These, dormant militant groups are nipped in bud, arrested, to ensure that the situation doesn't work.
Okay, so the report is that the warning has come after Lieutenant Colonel of the Army was injured last week during a standoff with a group of people, including women vigilantes who attempted to attack the community from the hills, tribals near Molnoi village near Palel in Tengupal district, but was stopped by Army and Assam Rifles. During this standoff, a bullet hit Lieutenant Colonel Raman Tyagi in his hand. An incident that led to a crackdown on the protesters who were determined to march towards the tribal village. Lieutenant Colonel Tyagi had to be airlifted from Manipur to Guwahati, where he underwent surgery. The officials said he was early evacuated to a military hospital in Lai Makhong by helicopter, after which he was shifted to Assam for specialized treatment. Now, UNLF, PLA, which initially took the shape under the name Polai, the ancient name of Manipur, had aimed to liberate Manipur and establish an independent Meitei land in Imphal Valley. That's one. Then you had other organizations which are active. Now, terror organization is a terror organization. This Press Trust of India has reported. Mr. Dongar, isn't it very worrisome?
Indeed, Karthikeya ji. In the first place, good evening, and thank you for having me again. It is a worrisome indeed. The fact that the involvement of certain terrorist groups, like Brijesh ji said, this is not a new thing. It has been highlighted, otherwise at least touched upon, even since the beginning of the violence and also the discussion that took place that followed. So if you look at the kind of modus operandi carried out by the, so to say, valley-based militants, or otherwise the forces that comes from the valley towards the hills, has now changed. In the initial period, you see a lot of crowds, going together in groups in thousands and attacking the villages. But today you'll see hardly 20, 30 people, or otherwise even less, with people with sophisticated guns, and then going to attack those villages. And yesterday, or day before yesterday, the incident that occurred was an ample, evidence to tell us that, the fact that PTI has reported on this is the involvement of the terrorist groups, banned terrorist groups in Manipur. If you look at it, it was very surprising how these people could maneuver and then make their way, circumventing, those areas inhabited by the Kukis, and then make their way through the Naga inhabited areas, and then come up the hills and then attack the Kuki civilians. In fact, in the initial stage, the army was playing the role of a neutralizer, and they have done their best to make sure that these buffer zones, for that matter, Palel area, remains a peaceful zone. And in fact, Palel area had been the last hotspot where violence had taken place. Since May, there was no violence reported, and this was because of the role played by the Assam Rifles. Because the Assam Rifles,
Mr. Dongar, I want to ask you one thing. Why has the theatre of activity shifted to villages? What is this? Earlier people would say, there's a problem at the buffer zone. So everyone understand, boss, it is there because, on one side you have the Meiteis, or other side you have the Kukis, and then you have the army, Assam Rifle and Manipur police in between. But what is happening at, these villages near Imphal, why has that theatre of activity shifted there? What is happening? What happened on Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday? What happened actually?
Yes, I think that's a really important question to ask. If we look at the sizable population of the cookies present in Imphal, today you see the last modicum of population has been taken out from Imphal a few weeks ago, last week in fact, and now there is no cookies present, Cookie Joe community present in Imphal Valley. Now, if you look at the battle, as you said, the battlefield, or otherwise the hotspot for violence has now shifted to the villages, because those are the places where the cookies inhabit. And buffer zones, when it comes to buffer zones, why you don't find much in the buffer zones? Because of the presence of the paramilitary forces, the Assam Rifles. Now, whereas you'll see, like I said, manning the buffer zones, or otherwise the peripheries that connects the valleys and the hills, the entire range of peripheral range is not possible, because there are paddy fields, there are hillocks. So there is always a way to maneuver and circumvent the Assam Rifles and then make your way through the villages in the hills. And that's exactly what had happened on Sunday, or otherwise 2 days ago. And
but it is said a lot of people, Dongalji, a lot of people wanted to go back to their villages. Is it correct? They wanted to go back to their houses?
Kartikezi, who will not want to go back to their village, by the way? I'm just imagining the fact that until today my village is safe. That's a blessing for me. But then if I put myself in the shoe of those people who have lost their houses, property, be it from the Meitei community or be it the Cookie Joe community, who will not want to go back to their homes and their villages? And today, the fact that they could not go back to their villages because all the houses in the hills, the villages are razed to the ground. Where will they find shelter other than find?
Okay, there is another development which is taking place. There are three things which I am going to discuss today. The first thing is that the presence of terrorists, which the PTI has reported. There is another thing I am going to show you, which my producers are going to put on here. The way in Imphal, people are thronging to lawmakers' houses. I will play out those visuals for you. And the third is the letter by Rajkumar Singh Emo, who says the 1960 Act should be amended, which means that the land buying capacity should be stable. Welcome, Professor, for making time and coming. Thank you so much. Asina, you are here. I just want to know what is happening in Imphal Valley. People, these are the visuals. Wonderful. Very good, Priya. Good job done. Play those visuals again. Play those visuals again. Yes. Wonderful. These are the visuals. There are two sets of visuals. This one visual is about, people going to MLA's residence. Then next day they went to Mr. Sapam's residence. But I'm just showing this. What is this happening? For normal people saying, boss, don't break the territorial integrity of Manipur. Restore law and order, get things to work. What does it tell us? I think people are getting frustrated. It's the most peaceful way of protesting. These two set of visuals. Three parts of my story today. Terrorist, as reported by PTI, with the agitated mob. Second, peaceful protest by people of Manipur, telling lawmakers, get the job done, run the state. And the third, Professor, would be the tweet of Rajkumar Singh Emo, amending the 1960 Land Act. वो मैं आपसे पूछूंगा, Hasina, doesn't it? This is the letter. This is the third part of my story. Amend the Land Act. I thought today is the day where three things can be taken up with all of you with different expertise. So to you, and let's go back to, this is the letter which he has written, and he's given a backdrop saying that why the original amendment did a great service. He has written that tribals have imagined a imaginary threat, but ability to buy land should be uniform across Manipur. So this is a 2-page letter that he has tweeted. Rajkumar Emo Singh. Hasina, to you, what does that visual tell us when people are protesting in front of the lawmakers now? They are not going out. They are thronging at their residence and asking them, deliver the governance. Deliver the governance. Hasina.
Yes, so when I was in Manipur, almost 20 days ago, and I was visiting both the Meitei populations and where people are very badly affected, and I was at the Kuki and Chorachangpur and others, what really struck very strongly from the ground was that everybody wanted this entire conflict situation to end. They are tired and exhausted as common civilian to be in the camp and not having any kind of what's the next step on where they're going to go back home, how is the home going to be restored. So if you look at these visuals which is coming up, I think instead of all the law, asking the lawmaker or protesting outside, it just sent one strong, clear message. That message is that we need peace and order. That is the core of what is happening from the very beginning, that people are exhausted as common people. Why don't we look at that point of lens? Why does we have all these letters talking about land and others when the law and order situation is just not being taken care at the chorus of what normal civilian who are losing out their job, people who are actually laborers, people who are running small businesses are unable to get their peace that is required.